Our Saturday evening nightcap for the divisional round will be San Francisco seeing if they can battle through all of the injuries they've had as they get a rematch at Seattle. Kickoff will be at 8 p.m. over on Fox. As of right now, the Seahawks are 7.5 point favorites with the over and under set at 44.5 points. And last week, we were very solid with our picks. Only one game that we got wrong. This San Francisco team and their win over the Eagles. The over-unders, they weren't nearly as good. We had some weather that we thought was going to be way more of an impact than what it was. And we went 9 for 11 in our pick'ems. The George Kittle one, we're not going to count. Unfortunately, he was injured very early in that game. But it doesn't appear that weather will be a factor in this game either. It's going to be sunny in Seattle. There's going to be a very light wind. And keep in mind, even though it starts at 8 o'clock here, it's going to be starting at 5 o'clock in Seattle. The 49ers, who went to battle with this Seattle team a couple of weeks ago for the number 1 overall seed, come into this matchup 12-5 on the regular season with a point differential of plus 66. While the Seattle Seahawks, they end up winning the number 1 seed, the NFC West, with a 14-3 record and a plus 191 point differential. And the injuries continue to stockpile for the San Francisco 49ers. Obviously, no George Kittle after he tore his Achilles last week, but we also got limited practices from Trent Williams, Fred Warner, Ricky Pearsall, D. Winters, and Jair Brown did not participate with his hamstring injury. For the Seattle Seahawks, DeMarcus Lawrence was a limited participant, and he's really the only starter that's dealing with an injury as of right now. San Francisco is going to have several guys step up if they think they're going to win this game. So let's go into the matchup edge, and at the quarterback position, I'm going to give the props to Brock Purdy here. Sam Darnold played well this season, but towards the end of the year, he started to fade off. And when he faded off, Brock Purdy absolutely soared. So I'm going to give Brock Purdy the benefit of the doubt and go with him here. At the running back position, we got to go with Christian McCaffrey. He's going to get the edge in almost any game that San Francisco would play. At the wide receiver position, we're going with the Seattle Seahawks. If we knew that San Francisco was going to be fully healthy, this would be a little bit closer to being even, but the superstar on the field for both teams, outside of Christian McCaffrey, is Jaxon Smith-Njigba. The tight end position and the offensive lines are both even for me. George Kittle would end up getting the matchup edge here if he were healthy, but with Jake Tonjes being the number 1 guy this week at the tight end position, he's fared well when George Kittle was hurt this season. Don't get me wrong, I think Tonjes is more than capable, but that brings us down to an even matchup. The offensive lines have been fairly even all season long. Seattle's had a couple of guys step up and break out this season, and there are a couple of injuries on both offensive lines that we'll keep an eye on for whoever ends up moving forward. The San Francisco 49ers against the Eagles last week were really good on the defensive side of the ball, but there's one thing that I just cannot get out of my mind. Is it the fact that San Francisco played very well on defense? Or is it the fact that the Philadelphia Eagles were just really bad on offense? Again, with all the injuries and not being able to create much of a pass rush, I got to give it to Seattle, who's had one of, if not the best defense in all the NFL all season long. And for special teams, I'm going to go ahead and give the Seahawks a little bit of an edge here as well, which means for the matchup edge, overall, we're going to give it to Seattle, which makes sense. With all the injuries San Francisco has dealt with, and with as good as Seattle has been this season, and the fact they're at home, Seattle being favored by 7.5 points is not a shock. Let's head on over to Underdog and take a look at a couple of our favorite plays for this matchup. And starting with San Francisco, it's Juan Jennings. With no George Kittle, Jennings appears to be the favorite target for Brock Purdy in this matchup. And right now, you can drop his line over on Underdog down to 29.5 receiving yards. And at a .70 multiplier, I'm going higher there. Over his last 10 games, he's hit this mark in every single game. In the 2025 season, he hit this mark in 81% of his games, and in his last 20 games, he he hit it 85% of the time. Against Seattle just a couple of weeks ago, he had 35 receiving yards. And again, with no George Kittle, I would expect him to have the most targets in this matchup, even though it's a really tough matchup. And for Seattle, we're going to take a look at Jaxon Smith-Njigba, a guy that's absolutely hit way more than a majority of the time this season. JSN right now with a receiving line that you can take down to 79.5 receiving yards. If you do that, you can get a 0.76 multiplier. In 2025, he hit this line 82% of the time, and over his last 10 games, he's hit it 80%. The only two games that he didn't hit this was against Carolina at 72 receiving yards, so he just missed it, and then early in the year against Minnesota, which is one of the worst passing defenses to face in all of football. And if you want to tail these or any of the other pick'ems that we talk about throughout the week, make sure you get signed up over on Underdog. If you use code Headliners, you're going to get a super special pick'em that's almost guaranteed to hit, and you're going to get $75 in bonus contests when you play your first $5 contest. Underdog is also doing a ton of promotions during the NFL playoffs, so make sure you stay in tune with what they've got special for you. San Francisco has had a great run this season, and I don't want to take anything away from what they have done so far, but I think Seattle is just going to be way too good to defeat at home, given all of the injuries that they have dealt with, especially now for the fact that they're going to be missing George Kittle. I'm going to be taking the Seattle Seahawks in this matchup, but I'm going to go under 44.5 points because I do believe this is going to be more of a defensive battle. I think Brock Purdy could end up struggling against this defense a little bit, especially on the road at Lumen Field. The 12th man always makes it very difficult to play against, and in the playoffs, it even gets a little bit harder. For Sam Darnold, he hasn't fared nearly as well down the stretch as he did earlier in the season. So against San Francisco, a defense that absolutely came to play last week, I expect them to still come to play this week. And if they do, Seattle could have some trouble scoring. But Seattle really only needs to do what the Texans did last week, except take care of the football a little bit better. Take care of the football, get some field goals, maybe get a defensive turnover here or there or a defensive touchdown, and by the time the game gets to the end of the fourth quarter, walk away with it because the opposing offense just can't get anything done. Headliner Nation, in the comments down below, let me know what you're thinking in terms of this game and your predictions. Also, let me know, are there any underdog pick'ems that you're looking at playing in this matchup that we didn't talk about? Make sure you hit that subscribe button so you can check out all of our playoff matchup videos, everything else that we're going to be doing this offseason, and Headliners Unfiltered live Mondays and Thursdays starting at noon. For now, though, I'm going to get out of here. Stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll catch you in the next episode of the Fantasy Headliners.
Analytics off the chain, all the channels not the same. Jake and Kyle, you know the name. Headliner Nation, we running the game.